Hi everyone, it is Kat and Alexandra, and we are here for our Facebook Live class all about mixed media. So we have had a wonderful time sort of prepping a lot of items to show you and just to really get you started on mixed media. If you're a beginner or if you're advanced, this is a great technique to kind of learn. I mean, it's many techniques actually to kind of learn. So we're just gonna start and dive in, but if you've joined us on our live Facebook class before, you know that we have a giveaway for you. So all you have to do is leave a comment in the comments below, and we are going to give you an amazing prize package here. And this is worth over $50, and this is sort of a little sampling of a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. So we have some diamond glaze, we have some Vintaj patina, you're going to get some art glitter as well in this beautiful fauna color. And then we have some collage sheets for you to use as well. And of course, we couldn't let you go without getting some bezels, some various things from Nunn Design here. And then we also have some Swarovski crystals, and these are going to be great to use with all of your crystal clay. And this is just a selection of the crystals. We have many more colors that you're going to get. We're going to get you to have some of this crystal clay, and this is the sparkle dust or mica powder, and this is that beautiful pearl white color. And you're going to also get a package of crystal clay in silver. So this is worth over $50 of items, so you can just leave a comment below, and then at the end of our live giveaway, we'll be giving it away. Or end of our live class, we'll be giving it away. All right.
Well, I would love to get all that stuff.
Right?
This is mostly new to me. I can string and wire and weave all day, but you give me glue and adhesive and I'm like, how long does it take to dry? Is it going to stain my fingers? Is it toxic? Tell me about this stuff. So here we are.
Yeah, so I want to dive in by showing you a technique kind of right away. And what I'm going to be showing you here is using the silicone mold. Now I have a couple pieces here, and I'm going to demonstrate how to use this, and sort of as I demonstrate, I'm going to kind of talk my way through it. So first things first, I am going to be a good girl and put on my gloves, because you don't want to get this stuff on your hands. And Alexander, would you mind helping me sort of unpackage this? Sure. This is the Easy Mold, and this is a 2-part silicone mold. And what's great about this is that once you make a mold, you can use it over and over again. So it's really kind of a neat product. All right. Thank you. All right, so like I said, it does come in 2 parts here. And you're gonna have this sort of white putty part, and this is sort of component A. And we have this purple putty, and this is component B. So what you're gonna do is just take equal parts, and you can see how big of a mold you want to make. And you can see it just kind of comes out apart there. Might be a little too much, so I'll just put some back. All right, so all I want to do is kind of roll that into a ball there. I think it's still a little bit too much there. There we go. So I have one size of my white. I'll go ahead and set that down. And then I need the equal size of the part B. And this, when I put them together, this will create that chemical reaction. And you can see it's getting all over my gloves. So you definitely want to use gloves because you don't want this all over your hands. All right, I'm just gonna kind of compare. I have a little too much purple there, so I'm going to just pinch off a little bit and put it back in the box. There we go. And just a little bit too much more. Okay. All right, so now I have 2 equal parts, so go ahead and start squishing them together. And your working time with this putty is going to be pretty tight, so just go ahead and start working it in your hands. Alexandra, would you mind just closing those up for me?
Yep. And now the concern about getting equal parts of A and B is that it affects the drying time or the consistency or both?
So a lot of what mixed media will do, and this is the same when we are going to talk about resin and crystal clay, is that it causes a chemical reaction. So it's sort of like if you try to make a recipe and you use too much flour and not enough sugar, you're not going to end up with the cookies that you want. So this is just, and you can kind of see I'm still working on it, but there's a lot of striation in there, and that's what you don't want, so you want to keep working with it just a little bit more. And I know I'm going through this a little bit quickly here. We do have a full video showing you how to do this technique, so definitely be sure to check that out on our instructional videos page. But just to kind of get it going here, you can start to see a lot of those disappear. And do you have one of those containers that I just had you close up?
Yeah. You're gonna flatten it?
Yeah, I'm gonna use the back of this container, and you can kind of see there's that nice little flat surface that I'm just gonna use. All right, so I think that is good, so I'm just gonna roll it into a nice little ball there. And I just have some waxed paper here, so I'm just gonna place that down. And then I'm gonna use the top here just to make sure that I don't get any fingerprints in there and just kind of smush it down. And just kind of peel it off there. There we go. And now I'm gonna take this button and press it down in to give a nice impression. And you can kind of see the mold start to form up around it. And I have these little toothpicks here to just help me kind of get that out really carefully.
The heat from your hands probably makes it stickier the sooner you're working with it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Like with the crystal clay.
Yep, it has that same kind of effect. All right, so just kind of move that around there. And then I'm gonna take my open back bezel and center it to the piece that I want. There we go. And just press it in and make sure it's nice and even all the way around. Now this bezel is nice and deep, so I won't have any spillage concerns, but let me go, I'm gonna remove my gloves here for a second.
Now that it's mixed, it's less of a concern, right? Mostly it's that purple that really gets all over.
Exactly, yeah, so now you can touch it, but what's great is you actually have a working time of about 30 minutes, so you'll actually get a chance to see this dry and see the finished product. Now I do have an example here using the exact same button and bezel. And this is a finished piece that our designer Rachel had done. And this is what it sort of looks like when you're all set and done. So if you put it like that and you fill up your resin, and when you pop it out, you're gonna have that beautiful little impression there.
And the way she got that sheen was to use the mica powder, right?
Yes, and that's a great technique. And so you can kind of see it creates a little window effect behind it. But this is sort of that finished product.
Sparkle dust, was that what she used?
Yep, she used the crystal clay sparkle dust.
And just brushed it on with a paintbrush.
Yeah, it's so fun. And as you can see, this mold here, this was done probably a couple weeks ago now, but it's a mold that you can use again and again. So this is one of those great little pieces. We have a question, so what is our question so far?
Question from Veronica.
Hi, Veronica.
What items can you use to make impressions? What are the various types of things you can use?
I'm so glad you asked. You can use a lot of things. In fact, the bracelet that I was sporting earlier, this is our Miss B bracelet. And as you can see, I actually used this in one of our molds here to create a sort of honeycomb effect. And I have the necklace here to show you sort of how that sort of turns out. So this is the necklace, and I made this really kind of fun honeycomb. And what's great is you can see on the bracelet that I have here, it doesn't harm the bracelet at all. The silicone mold does not stick to it, so you can use household items, you can use maybe something you got on a vacation, a shell, or the possibilities are endless. And speaking of just sort of different little techniques to use, I decided that I was having trouble trying to prop up one of my projects to do a resin pour. So what I did was I created a mold so that my resin piece would stay upright so that I could pour the resin in the back. Because one of the things you'll notice that we have a lot on our website is we tell you to kind of prop your work up, and that's sort of a little technique, you know, because you want your resin to lay flat. So this is one of those pieces where we had to just poke some holes through so that we could put earring backs in there, or you can create a little well to put a ring in there because you want everything to stay upright.
Right, and now the function and purpose of you pouring the resin in like this was to lay the backing of the earring more flush. Is it hollow down there? Is that what
Yeah, so if you look at the side version of this earring, it is completely hollow on the back. So I just kind of wanted to make the back a little bit more wearable for an earring. And I noticed that when I just simply glued the earring back in there, there was that big old well, and it was actually kind of uncomfortable on my ear. So there's a little technique of kind of adding a colored resin. Now I used the blue for this guy, and I created just so a little flat back so that when you wear it, it's a little bit more comfortable.
Smart.
So yeah, so that was sort of just one of those things. And I obviously made this mold before I added the pearl, but just kind of showing you how it sets in there. But you can use a lot of things with the silicone mold.
Stay tidy by hanging your necklace back
Oh,
up.
thank you.
And when you have extra resin, can you tell us about what you can do with that?
Yeah, so one of the things is that in order to get that chemical reaction that we often talk about, we want to create at least 1 full cup of resin. So you're gonna create this whole cup filled with resin. Now your project might just be filling that one little bezel, and this is so much more than what you really need, but you do need a good amount in order to get that chemical reaction. So always have some molds standing by. So here I have a couple cabochons that I made, and this is just one of the molds here, and I just added some glitter to one of my resin pieces, and this one has a little bit of color to it. So this is a great way to kind of get some extra resin and to use those pieces
And what's
for
nice
future
is
things.
they size these molds to fit bezels
Mm-hmm.
that we carry, that you can get really creative with the types of decorative bezels that you put your resin into and make some really neat pieces that way.
Yeah, and definitely good for custom
Different
pieces
shapes.
and bead embroidery around it. So there's a lot you can really do with extra resin, but you don't want it to just sit in your cup and go to waste, because resin can be a little bit expensive if you haven't worked with it before, but once you start working with it, you'll start to keep buying it and keep buying it.
We have really good videos on how to
Oh,
use that.
yeah. Oh, we have another question.
Question from Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
Do you need a well-ventilated area to work with these products like resin?
Yes. So going back to, I was sporting my gloves earlier. I do also recommend getting a little mask to wear, especially if you're working with resin. When you're working with the silicone mold or some of the glues or adhesives, you might not need this, but it is always good to protect yourself. And when your resin is drying, you're gonna wanna leave it in a well-ventilated area, because the fumes can be a little bit toxic, but not dangerous. Please don't understand that they're dangerous. It's just you might not want to eat where you're having your resin cool and cure. But yeah, so just be careful and just take the right precautions. You don't want to get any resin or anything on your hands, so always having a nice big box of gloves nearby is a great thing.
We always look for sunny, warm days to do this too, because on rainy days it's a little too humid. So again,
Yeah.
our videos and the products to describe all of the best ways to use them, the safest ways to use them. Is there more that you want to describe about this mold, or shall we move on to?
Let's move on to
We have such a full table of goodies.
I know. Let's move on to a different type of mold, and this is something that you've actually worked with a little bit more than
Yes,
me.
A video we have on this is the silicone mold, easy mold, that uses the urethane fast cast resin. And this cures in about 10 minutes, and so it's very quick. And the application for this was very experimental for us, and so we came up with a few fun little molds using natural pieces, found objects and things, and that was neat. It says on the instructions that you don't need a mold release, but a couple of recommendations in the comments of our YouTube video was that people thought maybe it would be a good idea. So it's up to you whether you would want to do that. So yeah, that's entirely different kind of mold and resin project to do. Lots more to experiment with that.
Yeah, and what I love about the blue, the easy mold, is that it's a paste. So if you do have something that is a little bit more of an unusual shape and you want to get that 3D effect, it works like a paste. And then the urethane resin will come out white, just like you have there. And I think we haven't tried it yet, but I think we're going to try to maybe add some paint to that and sort of see what we can come up with. And
yeah.
So some new videos on the way, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, so continuing our little discussion about resin, I just want to kind of move over here and talk about a few pieces. Oh, we do have another question, so let me kind of address that before I get into it.
I got a question from Veronica.
Hello, Veronica.
A question
Again.
about how to get a hole in those molded pieces that you just showed. Like, how would you wear that?
Oh, how to get a hole in it? So, for example, this piece here actually had a hole in it. So when the mold was cast, we were able to keep the hole. Now, if you're gonna try to add a hole to something like this, I
would read the instructions on the
Yeah.
box, and I'm thinking Dremel tool,
Yeah.
files, different sorts of fine drills, would work, and I've wanted to experiment with that, but in jewelry making it hasn't been as practical for us here. So
yeah, because you can actually use, we have a Vintaj metal file, and you can actually use it. You'll see there's some sharp edges here, and that's just because of the way the resin was poured. But to get that off, you can just file it. So a metal file works. In terms of drilling a hole, it really depends on the piece, because if you're looking at something that's a little finer, you're gonna need a really delicate tool so that you don't crack this. This is pretty hard stuff, but you'd hate to kind of get your drill down in there.
honestly, we had less luck doing shallow molds of this type of resin. This is more for larger pieces. So I would recommend.
Yeah, even on the box, they do recommend this for more of three-dimensional large pieces.
So these are about as small as you want to go with those.
But you know what? I will try to figure that out, because that is a great question, and you know, especially because we're jewelry making here, so we want to make sure that you can create a pendant that you can actually wear. So I'll check into that, because if you joined us on our memory wire class, you noticed that all of a sudden we had lots of memory wire videos and projects come out after the class because you guys inspired us so much. So if you do have a question like that where we just don't have the answer, but we should find out.
Yep, and it also
Be
brings
sure to leave
mind that we could possibly use the type of bail that you adhere with glue. So if it didn't have a hole, you could still glue the backing of a bezel or a bail rather, that would hold it onto a chain.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Could work.
So, so continuing on with the resin though, I just want to kind of bring your attention over here, and this is using some of the Cast and Craft colors, and we do have transparent and concentrated pigments. So you can see on this particular bracelet here, I did a little bit of both. So on this side is that opaque white, and it's nice and flat and very shiny. It almost has that kind of enamel look. And then on the other side, I wanted to do something that was a little bit more of a green button, so I used that sort of transparent dye. So that's just a kind of fun way to
Took two separate pours, right? Because otherwise it
Yep.
would have leaked out. And so this is an idea for how to manage these sorts of practical logistical issues. So you actually used it here with some tape to get a flat.
So this is very technical and the sexiest part of
scientific. Yeah.
So I had to level it and keep it in there, and then once that side dried, I had to do a completely separate pour and turn it around so that it dried and it was nice and level. So that's also what I mean about, you'll probably have extra resin as you work. So definitely have those molds and etc. ready.
And get what you need for the bases and things you'll need for drying. And the reason I bring this up too is this is what I used in cutting circles out to dry these flat as well. Once I'd had the mold poured and was ready for the resin, I needed a flat surface. So, yeah.
Yeah, so continuing actually on some of the tools, so you've noticed that we have some sort of household items that we use as well. And we do sell, we have the popsicle sticks, and these are just little, they're actually just little medicine cups, but what's great is that the writing on the sides is really helpful when you are pouring your resin. So these are great. Also, they're very disposable, so as you pour your resin, you obviously can't clean it and reuse it, so those are wonderful.
Just asking though, in terms of disposing of resin, you need to let it dry completely before dumping it into the wastebasket?
Yeah, if you, let's say you've mixed up your resin, you can just kind of leave it like that, let it cure and let it dry before disposing of it.
So it will all become solid.
Yeah, yeah, because otherwise you'll probably end up with resin on the inside of your garbage can.
And it is something to take seriously. I remember my first pour of resin, I was not as careful as I needed to. I thought of it more as a glue that was washable, offable.
Washable, offable?
It is not. So respect the resin, use the mask, use the gloves, and just be tedious and careful.
So, yeah. And if you're just joining us, I want to take a quick little break and remind you that if you tune in live with us now, we are doing a giveaway. And just to kind of go over some of the things again, and we haven't gotten a chance to talk about all this actually just yet, but we're giving away some diamond glaze, patina, we have some beautiful glitters, some collage sheets, and then some really fun bezels. We got a ring here, and we're gonna actually just about to talk about this. This is one of our lapel pins, and this is by Nun Design. Some other bezels here. I have some Swarovski Chaton crystals, and those will be really fun to use with your crystal clay. And then we're also giving you some of the crystal clay sparkle dust, and this is sort of that mica powder that we keep referring to. So this is a $50 value. All you have to do is leave a comment, say hi, let us know where you're tuning in from, let us know if you have a question. That qualifies you to win our giveaway. So we will be giving that away at the very end. So like I was talking about, we are going to talk about that lapel pin, and it brings up another topic of if you don't want to use the resin, we do have glass cabochons that are really kind of neat. So this is a project that Rachel did. And do you want to talk a little bit more about the glass cabochons?
Yeah, I mean, the simplicity of it is what's so nice because it's quick and clean and cheap. And all she did was cut out the image from her design sheet like this. And she actually used the diamond glaze glue to adhere it in, and then the diamond glaze glue to adhere the cabochon straight onto the image, which just to wipe off the fingerprints if there are any, just wipe off the back of that glass. So that is glass as opposed to resin, but it gives that nice domed look without the time that it takes for resin to dry, without the mess. And it gives a really nice look. So yeah, these are also tempered glass, already prepared pieces that Beadaholique offers and are easy enough to just make simple magnets out of. So I had fun doing a set of those too. Magnets are all part of craft month as well. And I know, just off topic here, but my refrigerator is a very central part of my home, and I like for fun magnets to appear. So I made those.
Yeah, it's great. And you can, add your magnets to anything, especially if you have created some of those resin pieces with those extra cabochons and your molds. Just put a little dab of E6000 on the back and a magnet, and you got yourself kind of a fun little set. So yeah, I know my fridge has lots of crafty things on it as well.
Photographs and bezels would make great gifts. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Quick stuff.
Yeah, I love to find ways to preserve stuff that I've maybe gotten from a vacation or just a photo from an event, a wedding, something like that. So it's always great to kind of preserve stuff like that. And I think the glass cabochons are a wonderful way to experience that. So I also want to, while you were talking, you talked a little bit about the collage sheets. Can you talk about your necklace that you have up there as well?
This will be the last resin piece we talk about. The last epoxy resin was I cut out, you can see here there's a little cutout of the image that I used from the Nun Designs sheet of some cherry blossoms. And then just with some crafter's pick glue, I adhered that in there with several copper spacers glued on. And once those were all dried, poured the resin, and it captured them in there. So yeah, it's just a really nice, clean, finished, professional way to capture objects. And I actually also did that over here on this piece with some charms, some stacked star charms, and then gold spacers around the edge. And that is on some velour paper, which is this stuff, and it's kind of like velvety topping on the paper that makes it a really rich, deep, finished backing that I glued in there just as I would any other type of paper. And that worked out really well. So.
And the piece on top here, that is another resin piece, and that is an open back, and that's using the open frame hoops. And again, those are by Becky Nunn. And I just wanted to kind of create a little bit of like a glass window pendant. So it's transparent, and I used some of the transparent green dye as opposed to the opaque, so you can kind of see how that
turned out great.
How that looks. I'm being an Irish girl, redhead. I love that piece, and that will probably disappear to my home. All right.
So is that it for resin?
That's it for resin. I just want to really quickly, well, it's not it for resin because I just said I'm going to talk a little bit more about resin. So we have ice resin, and we also do have the Nun Design resin as well. And these work exactly the same. They're the 2-part resin. So it's just equal parts A and B to get that chemical reaction, and then you can create all of these designs. And we have lots of colors and very fun stuff to do with that. Last thing is I want to talk about the Nun Design sealant, and because we were talking about the collage sheets, and this is the sealant that you would use
yes,
to
I
use
skipped
with
over
that.
that.
Oh, it's okay.
After gluing, once the glue is completely dry, then you just brush on a little of this sealant, 1, 2, 3 coats of that, and it seals the image in before you put the resin on. Again, we have videos on these.
Yeah, we have videos on a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here, and the stuff that we talk about that doesn't have a video, we will be making videos because we definitely want to make sure that we answer all of your questions and with all the tips and tricks that we kind of find to help you out with that as well. So, but yeah, so here is the non-design glue, and we can also use the crafter's pick for those collage sheets as well.
Just apply it with a toothpick.
All right.
Okay, what's next?
What's next? Let's dive in and talk a little bit about the Vintaj Patina here. So I'm going to kind of get some of this stuff out of our way and bring this forward. There we go.
People might be wondering why there's a torch on the table. We may want to cover
See,
that
I knew
quickly.
I wasn't done talking about resin. The torch we have here, and this is just a barbecue lighter that you can get from any store. And this is used to bring any of those bubbles out from behind that resin so that you don't have bubbles in your resin. However, I just created that honey, honey, honey necklace.
Right. So panning back over here to these two resin necklaces, you'll see the top one is completely clear, and that's because I took actually a cigarette lighter, or that would have worked better, a barbecue lighter. But
Keeps your fingers away from it.
Melts the top of the resin just enough to bring the bubbles up and pop. But down here, Kat's describing that she kept the bubbles for the effect of honey, which I think is really cool.
So that's sort of what it could look like if you don't use that lighter.
All right.
So that kind of covers this, and you know, we're always using either packing tape or blue painter's tape, so we often refer to those in our projects as well. So in case, but this is just kind of household items, and then I'm going to go over the magic pick a little bit later when we start talking about crystal clay. But let's dive into our patinas.
Great, and move them over.
All right. So yeah, sorry, we have lots of stuff on our table. So, before I dive in, I have a question.
Question from Monica.
Hi, Monica.
A heat gun.
A heat gun. You can use something very similar to a creme brulee torch, but we recommend a lighter. I don't think you really need anything that powerful. And of course, that kind of depends on how big your piece is. I mean, if you really need to torch it, you can use one of those butane torches, but I just recommend using just a barbecue lighter. Just kind of, all you do, and I'm not going to turn it on, but I'll just kind of show you how it works. And this is another resin piece, so you just light it up and just kind of wave it over the top, and you'll see magic happen because all those bubbles will come to the surface and pop. And you might need to do that 1 or 2 times, so you just kind of wave it over, and you do this maybe 3 to 4 minutes after you've poured your resin. Because once it starts to cure, it might be harder to get those bubbles towards the top. But so you can just use just a lighter is all you really need, especially for a shallow piece like this. So, but speaking of this, this is done by our designer Rachel, and she actually used a transfer sheet. And the transfer sheets are a little bit different than the collage sheets because they are clear on the back. So with those, you just put it in a little bit of water and the backing will slide off, and then you just carefully place it into your bezel. But before she placed her transfer sheet, she used some Vintaj Patina and just took a paintbrush and just kind of added the color to the back and inside that bezel. So
straight onto the metal of the bezel.
Straight onto the metal, yeah. You don't need any type of prep or anything like that, any sealant or anything to put that down in there. And what's great is the Vintaj Patina actually dries really quickly.
Yeah, and so what she did was leave on a light coat, but for some of these pieces, like this one I did here, which when we start to talk about concrete, that's what the top portion is, but this dragonfly, what I did was a similar green color of emerald patina, brushed all over the top of the dragonfly and then quickly wiped off partially by paper towel, and then a little bit more with this, which is the Vintaj relief block, and just rubbing along the sides of it brings the detail of the piece back out.
Yeah.
But the crevices stay colored.
Yeah, you can see this is our used piece of ours, so we've just brushed it over some of those metal pieces and you'll get that nice shine that'll kind of come through. So there's a couple different sides to this. There's a little bit of a buffing side, and you can see that we've used that portion there. A little bit of a harsher side and a smoothing out. So this is actually just a really great thing to use with a lot of Vintaj pieces, and it was something that I can actually demonstrate here for you. Now this, if you joined us in one of our very first Facebook Live classes, this is the project that we made, and on these antiqued brass beads are Vintaj Patina. So you can see that it kind of gets down into the grooves there, but let me sort of show you an example of getting it off of those grooves. So you can kind of see right there where it falls in there, but there's still a little bit on top. So I'm gonna use that relief block and kind of show you what happens.
It also shines up the metal a little bit as you go.
Mm-hmm.
You look like a manicurist.
In another life.
It actually really does shine the metal. That's a nice after
Yeah,
effect.
so you can kind of see, and I hope you can see it on camera there, but that really just sort of makes that design pop. So that's a great little thing, and again, you can use that Vintaj relief block with many different stampings, very similar to the dragonfly that Alexandra had used.
Great.
So, and this is just another example of using that Vintaj patina, and you can see on these brass stampings that it kind of just comes out just a little bit on each side. So just really beautiful. And then we also have one final piece here, and this actually is on wood. So this is using one of those paint pens, and then just a little bit of that patina on the sides and back, and just gluing a little stamping on top, and you've got yourself a really cute, bohemian, adorable earring. Oh, we have another question.
Question from Karen, going back to resin.
Oh, hi, Karen.
Can you talk about embedding organic matter like flower petals into resin?
Sure. So that's a question that we actually get very often, and it's something that is a little bit difficult to do, but definitely not impossible. The main thing that you want to do when you're embedding something like that is to make sure that it's sealed properly. And I actually didn't get a chance to talk about this, and I'm going to talk about this when we go over concrete, but this is clear resin spray. So this will actually help harden. So to do a flower can be a little bit difficult because a flower is very, very delicate. But you can try to use the resin spray to harden it up a little bit so that when you do pour your resin on top of it, it will keep its shape as opposed to kind of flattening out. In Alexandra's necklace here, it's not organic matter, but she was able to attach, and in that resin, so they're trapped in there, they're not laid on top, is those bead spacer beads. So
just as you were talking about flowers, I, growing up, used to press flowers on vacations and stuff, and so I'm inspired to use pressed flowers even as opposed to fresh to trap into the resin. I know we have some good videos by Becky about organic matter and resin also, and she really lays it out well.
Yeah, and one of the things that she did that I thought was really, really neat is she used organic matter and she created a silicone mold and then poured resin. So you still get that beautiful kind of shape and that style to some of the leaves and that kind of thing. I actually have one of those pieces here as well. So this is a piece that she had done. And this is that organic matter, and she used this and created one of those silicone molds.
And this is actually a video on the exact one.
Yeah, I was like, she actually did this exact piece in a video. So if you're interested in that, we will be linking lots of videos, I'm sure, for you down below. But that's probably the best way to get that organic matter in there. I have seen it trapped in a globe. And we are working on videos to try to explain exactly how that's done. Sometimes our videos on resin can be a little bit difficult to show just because of the time crunch, but I am going to work very hard to try to get a video to you guys so that you can understand exactly how that's done.
Very good. All
right. So if there's not any questions about patina, I think we can kind of move on. We might come back. Oh, as I said it, we have a question.
Question from Marion. What color is used on those earrings? Is that a turquoise or verdigris?
On, I assume you mean these earrings, and I believe this is the verdigris. We'll be able to point you in the right direction of the of the patinas. And what I also just thought of is you can actually mix the colors. So we do have a white patina, and if you wanted a little bit more of a, let's say you wanted a light shade of blue, you can do white and blue to create colors, and we actually have a video on mixing colors as well. So if you don't see the right colors that you have here, you can kind of get a few and then kind of mix them together so that can create the exact color that you're looking for. So, all right. So like I said, we were going to talk a little bit about artist concrete, and this is something that we brought in maybe a little bit over a year ago now, and we've had a lot of fun with it. It's provided some really great, interesting techniques. So we do have lots of videos showing you how to use the artist concrete and also to use the artist concrete, the pigment. So you can kind of see here, it's it's exactly like you would think. And actually, I'm gonna go ahead and open this up just so you can see what it is we work with here.
I'll open this one.
So you can just kind of see that it's just a nice little, it's just a powder. And all you do is add water and mix it, very much like you would mix concrete. And then you can use it for several applications in jewelry. So this is using that colored pigment, and you can see how different the color is. And you can actually kind of build the color, but this design that Rachel did kind of gives it a really fun little pink peachy effect. And going back to it, these were the earrings that came on this box here to kind of help prop them up. So this is what, you know, we kind of refer to when we're telling you to prop your pieces up.
So she domed that really nicely to create a domed effect, and then in other
kind of see the side there a little bit. Yeah, so they almost look like candy buttons.
Yeah,
you know, little cabochon buttons
without spilling out the edge of the bezel. That's nice.
Yeah, you never want to spill over the edge of the bezel. Sometimes it's a little hard to save.
Right. And so when I was filling this one, I was careful not to put too much concrete and then not too much of these Judykins rocks glass shards, but just tapping them down with a toothpick to get them trapped in there for kind of a matte and shine contrast effect.
Yeah, and you know, I like what you just said, because you do kind of trap them in there, so they're not, those glitter rocks aren't going anywhere. So it's kind of a nice thing. And I know you repeated that actually with this bracelet as well. Yeah. So you can kind of just see all the fun little applications. And you know, I love the concrete because it makes it very urban and very modern. So, and I just did a quick little ring here. So this is what the concrete will look like if you just pour it in a bezel. And that's all I was trying to achieve here, just kind of getting that nice little look, and it has that nice matte finish to it. But I did use the resin spray, and I have a couple pieces here that I'm going to show you. So the coloring is very slightly different. You can see that this one is just a little bit darker, and this one is a little bit lighter.
And which is which now?
This is the one that I used the resin spray on. So I did a couple coats of the resin spray, and it just kind of seals it in so that it won't chip or anything like that, so it just hardens that up.
Otherwise it's kind of dusty to the touch, right?
Yeah, it can be a little bit dusty to the touch, and you can also see here where it wasn't in a mold, that it just air dried. See, this side was against the mold, and this side is a little bit more matte. So that kind of gives you a little bit more of an indication, so you can see how matte it is on the bottom of the mold that I used.
This just created such a neat blank canvas for something that begs for a decoration like over here. Was this one of Rachel's pieces?
And she just added some flat backs to it. And
with
just
glue.
Really neat. Oh, we have another question.
Question from Sherry. Is the concrete fast drying?
Yes, it is actually pretty fast drying. It is faster than resin. Resin, we recommend you want it to cure for at least 1 to 3 days to get your full cure and to get it really, really hard. The artist concrete, you'll get your full cure in 24 hours. I recommend at least 24 hours before wearing it, but you can also move it after, I would say, a couple of hours. I would say like 1 hour you can kind of move it around. It's not as delicate as the resin is going to be.
It also doesn't require quite as much meticulous balancing as the resin. So when I propped this into that box that I showed you, I kept it actually centered like so, and I poured the first one straight and just gave it a few minutes and tilted it, and it didn't spill out. And I was able to pour the second one and have them dry at the same time. So that was handy.
Yeah. So that is sort of the information on concrete. Again, we have videos, and if you guys have more questions, you know, always leave them in the comments below. So if you're watching this after the fact, leave them in the comments, and we'll still try to do our best to answer them over the course of the weekend and next week as well. Oh, speaking of questions, we have another one.
We have a question from La, going back to Vintaj. Can you use Vintaj glaze on bare metal for shine or as a sealant?
Yes, we do have. And I can't believe I forgot to talk about it because I had it here. This is the Vintaj glaze, and this is a metal sealer and patina extender. So this is recommended if you want to, if you're using possibly the Vintaj Vogue line, and that is the raw brass. So if you want to keep that really beautiful raw brass and you don't want it to sort of naturally patina, definitely use the metal glaze. It'll give it a nice little shine to it, and you can actually do a couple coats of this, and I recommend a couple of thin coats. So this is a little bit lighter than the patina is going to be, but this will help extend the color that you add or to raw brass as well.
All right.
Good question, and thank you, because I forgot.
Shall I pull forward the crystal clay?
Let's
Ready
dive
for
into
it?
crystal clay.
All right.
Yes.
And I can, you got space there?
Yep. All right, so crystal clay is another great medium, and this is something that is probably used a lot. As you can see, we have a lot of problems. I was going to say most often by us, but that's not entirely true. Anyway, up here we have several rings, and this is one of the videos that I did here, and this is a very simple technique of combining crystal clay, adding it to a bezel ring, and just adding some Swarovski crystal chatons to it. And this is where you would want to use that wonderful tool, the magic pick. Now this helps pick up your chatons and sort of place them and get them into those nice little patterns.
It has a little sticky tip that you dab onto the pad, right?
Yep.
And then it adheres to your chaton, and you stick it right into the clay, and the clay grabs it.
Yeah, it's kind of magical.
It's very satisfying.
But we do have a video on how to use this, so I'm not going to demonstrate it right here, but it's very fun and definitely a good thing to have in your arsenal if you are a mixed media guru. So yeah, so definitely some other just pieces here. This one has a charm in it. Again, these are just slightly larger chatons. This one is an example that's not a ring, that uses the chatons and the stamping blanks.
Yeah, I'm just looking at how much detail work went into applying all of those little glitters. They're so pretty.
Yeah, and what's great about crystal clay is you have a good working time, but it's nice and stiff so that you can just sort of hold this up and get all those chatons in plenty of time to finish that piece. And crystal clay has a drying time of about 24 hours as well before wearing. That's what we sort of suggest to you. Now this is an interesting piece here, and this is a marbled look. Again, we have a video, but just to let you know, this is actually using 2 colors of crystal clay. So with crystal clay, again, it's a 2-part thing where you take equal parts of your A and B. And we'll go ahead and open one up here, one of the ones that we've kind of already been using.
So this is white, so it doesn't illustrate your point quite as well.
Quite as well.
There are 2 parts here.
But you'll see that you'll get this sort of sticky part here, and then you'll get your colored part here. So you take equal parts of A and B, and then you mix those together, and then I took a separate blue color and mixed A and B, and then I very carefully kind of marbled them together and placed them into my bezel here. So you get that nice kind of fun industrial artsy look, which I love.
You know, I'm noticing it comes with a little applicator of its own that's got like a wax tip.
Yeah, it's a little beeswax on the end.
So that may be helpful also. And I noticed working with it, which it's new to me as well, even fresh out of the box, it can be a little bit stiff, but it's the warmth of your hands that softens it. So after just a minute or so, it'll get nice and pliable.
Yeah, and that's sort of, and when you start to mix them together, that's when you really start to get that clay that you might be more used to kind of working with. So, and continuing on with the crystal clay, I do want to show you that we have the crystal clay squisher. And that is actually what it's called. It is a clay squisher. And Rachel did a great video showing you how to use this. And as you can see, there are 6 different patterns on this thing. And it is just a rubber kind of silicone backing here. And she used the swirls on this one. And very simply, she took some of the crystal clay sparkle dust, painted it on to her little squisher there, had the crystal clay in the bezel, and then flipped it over to kind of get that impression. And then when you take it out, you let it cure, and it's got that beautiful
sheen already.
Yeah, because that, you know, and you could do this without the sparkle dust. I just want to make mention of that, but I think it kind of adds just a really fun little extra color to it.
It probably acts as a little bit of a release also.
Yeah. And what's great is, as you can see, this is the one that she used, so you just wash it and you can just reuse it again. So. And then just some other kind of neat little things that you can do with crystal clay that isn't actually embedding anything in it. So I decided that I wanted to add just a little Rivoli to this very simple finding. But the problem is that anytime I tried to add glue, it would just seep through the bottom because this is open back filigree. So what I did was I actually took a little bit of crystal clay and I chose a gold color And I used crystal clay because I could squish it through, but then clean up the back so that it was nice and simple. So that's kind of another, that's another way to use crystal clay. And there's another example I have here where my cabochon was a little too shallow, so it sat too far into my bezel for that particular bracelet finding. So I used a little bit of crystal clay, created a little ball, and then squished this in there so that it sat a little bit higher so it looks nice and flush. And the crystal clay acts like an adhesive, so I didn't need to use any glue or anything in addition to that.
It's like magic.
So kind of, you know, a neat little technique to just sort of use.
Yeah, yeah. That's the coolest thing about the crystal clay is anything you embed, you don't have to re-glue. It just stays there.
It's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a great introduction into mixed media. If the resin or the concrete might be a little scary for you, definitely try using the crystal clay.
Did you already make mention that you can mix colors?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
And you can actually, if you were to continue to mix this so you didn't get that marbled effect, you can mix it to get a lighter blue. We do have a lot of colors of the crystal clay, but if you're looking for a specific color, if you want a purple that's maybe not this purple, you want to add some white to it, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
And the only thing that matters is that when you mix your initial color, your A and B, that those are the same ratio, and then you can mix your colors together however you want. So you can mix a little bit of white with your purple, you can mix a lot of white with your purple to get like a lavender or something.
But you have to mix the purple separate from the white first, and then
you have to mix the two colors separate, and then you can put them together. So yeah, it's all about that chemical reaction, and that's kind of mixed media talk for just getting it right. Yeah. All right, so now we're going to talk about some kind of unusual stuff and just sort of some fun stuff
crafty.
Here. More of the crafty stuff to bring it back to National Craft Month. So over here, I'm just going to kind of bring some of this in. And I want to talk first about the Stays On ink. Now this is just a solvent ink pad. So it's something that you could get that's just really easy and nice and simple. And I have a rubber stamp here, and then I have our paper bags. And this I just thought was just a really fun, just little neat kind of way. This was sort of my little sample here. You can see I kind of got a little carried away up top there. But if you just take your rubber stamp, press it in to your pad, make sure it's nice and on there. And let me try to do this upside down. And just get a nice little stamp. And there you go. So just kind of just fun and just easy to use. And we also do have a stamp cleaner, so you can reuse this with various different colors as well. So nice and easy.
Now I want you to tell me how you did this.
All right. So this is the Artist's Concrete, and you're actually able to stamp onto the concrete. And what's
so nice. I mean, it
it's
reminds
so
me of a
neat.
fossil, I guess. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know, it kind of does have that fossilized look.
I'm all about the nature pieces.
And what's really neat about this is so you can have your concrete, do your stamping, and then if you want on top of it to kind of seal it in, you can use that resin spray again to sort of finish it off and seal it and make it kind of nice and shiny. Oh, we have another question.
We have a question about the resin spray.
All right, go for it.
Can it also be used on paper, like paper beads?
Let's check, because I don't know. I haven't tried using paper beads or trying to create them. Something tells me that you can. My only thing would just be, I wonder if you need to seal it, because we do use the Nundesign sealant on our collage paper sheets. So something tells me you might want to try to seal it first and then use the resin spray to give it that hard effect. Yep, it actually says it right on here. I'm glad I read it. Pre-seal porous objects such as paper and fabric with a sealant to prevent wet out before coating with resin spray. So straight from the bottle itself, definitely use the Nundesign sealant or any other kind of sealant to seal it in, and then you can use the resin spray to really give it that hard effect that you are going for, which I'm sure that if you're making the paper beads, you want them to be nice and intact and don't want them to bleed or anything like that.
Right.
So there you go. I'm glad I could answer that for you by reading the bottle. All right, so moving on to some more fun stuff. Now, Mod Podge had a heyday several years ago, and we found a new fun way to work with it. So this is the Mod Podge here, and this actually uses the gold leaf that we have, and these are just kind of metal leafing pieces and
Those
using
come as flakes.
they come as flakes, and we have gold, silver, copper, a lot of fun stuff. And Julie, our designer, did a video on this showing you how to just paint this on and really seal it. And you know, it doesn't come off, it doesn't scratch off. So it's just a really fun little thing. So you can definitely get various different types of Mod Podge on our website as well if you're interested in using Mod Podge.
So Mod Podge is basically like a sealant and a glue all in one.
Yeah, it's a water-based sealer, glue, and finish.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you can use it on a lot of different things, but if you're working with jewelry, this is a great thing to kind of explore if you are looking for something that'll give it that nice kind of glassy effect. So
Like a professional paper mache.
yeah.
That glues clear.
Kind of.
Holds it in.
And speaking of glue, actually, the diamond glaze is really amazing as well.
Yeah.
And this is another sort of adhesive. Pardon me. Just gonna move some stuff out of the way here. All right. So this is a little bit of that adhesive, and this is a water-based adhesive. So this is gonna be a little bit more liquidy. It has a nice sort of glue-like effect. And this was done with that blue painter's tape, creating just various different shapes on top there. And what's great is when you add glitter to diamond glaze, it becomes a glitter paint. And this is one of my favorite things to show people, that it doesn't come off. I'm scratching it and it's not coming off. I'm wiping it and it's not coming off. And that is so fun. And I don't know if you've ever worked with glitter where it ends up all over your house, but if you use it and kind of create this diamond glaze paint, it won't come off. And Rachel did these really cute, and I'm going to hold the other one up as well. These use the diamond glaze in a bezel, and these are the lapel pins. And all she did was mix it together and kind of put it in the bezel, very much like you would do with a resin, but it stays in there and it just is so adorable. And I just love this one. It's so cute for a little Valentine's Day or for a wedding. So, you know, wedding season is coming upon us very quickly. So if you're looking for a little craft to make for maybe your groomsmen or something, that is something kind of fun.
These glitters are so fine that they really mix in nicely, and you can control the thickness and the richness of the color too.
Yes. Oh, another question.
We have a couple questions about Mod Podge.
Okay.
Does it dry clear or opaque?
It dries clear. We do have a couple different types of Mod Podge. We do have like a finish sealer spray. We do have this one, and this is actually the gloss. We do also have a matte. So you're gonna get a little bit more of, what am I trying to say? Like a frosted finish with the matte. When you use the gloss, you'll get more of a transparent finish. But it doesn't dry white. It's not like an Elmer's glue or anything like that.
Right. When I said paper mache, that's a little bit milky, so I think I was misleading there.
Angie says that when she uses Mod Podge, it stays sticky for her. So is there something she's doing wrong? Or how would that be prevented?
You know, you might be using a little bit too much, because I noticed that when we were kind of creating the piece for this, you really don't need a whole lot. It's you might be getting a little bit too gloopy, and technical term, gloopy. But that would probably be my troubleshooting for you, is that you might be using a little bit too much, because also with Mod Podge, you can build the coats as well. So if, let's say I did this one and it, you know, wasn't as much as I wanted it to, I can let it dry and then do another coat of Mod Podge on it. And I think that might help you out a little bit, just to try to build the sealing.
Right, and letting it dry is probably key too. Now,
Yeah.
as you were saying about building layers, and the video I'm sure explains this, but do you put the Mod Podge on and then the foil and then more Mod Podge?
Yeah, because it will act as sort of that adhesive.
The glue first and then the seal after. Nice.
Yeah, so, but that would probably be my best suggestion for that. I do want to actually explore doing some more videos with the Mod Podge, because it's such a versatile item, and I feel that we don't have enough for you guys, so we'll work on that one as well. Oh, one more question?
Question about the diamond glaze.
Sure.
Can it be used with glitter on fabric?
I don't know if you can use diamond glaze on fabric. We do actually have glitter paint that you can use on various things like leather, and that is designed to be used for that type of application. I don't think that you can use it on...
Yeah, it says specifically to use it on paper here, so...
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to say yes because I haven't tried it. We do have several like ultra suede, so I can try it on that to see if I can paint a little glitter on it. I don't know if it would make it stiff or if it would crack, but I will definitely explore that for you. But right now I can't say that I recommend it. All right, so we'll continue, and actually Alexandra has some great projects, and they're just sort of crafty projects, so I want to have her talk a little bit about them.
Sure.
You have some...
Yeah, well, right here is a sun catcher that Rachel made, and there are more behind us along with the dream catchers that I learned how to make since working here. And so, you know, lots of different fun colors. These are really designed for hanging in windows or in smaller versions as ornaments for tree. So they just incorporate, you know, different materials, suede, metals, wood, glass, and yeah, I had a great time learning how to weave the inner portion with some waxed linen or S-Long cord and incorporating the beads. So I made videos on creating the hoop and then embellishing what types of knots and cords to use, and yeah.
Yeah, so we have a video, like Alexandra was saying, showing you how to do the loop, but what I love about these pieces is mixed media really is just mixing media. You know, she has some, you know, like she was saying, just the silk, the cord, and this is the ultra suede. So it's just kind of really finding new fun ways to mix and match a lot of that stuff and different techniques. And these are wonderful examples. And I'm so glad you did videos on them, because that would be my first question is, where's that video?
Yeah, I really also like this technique of wrapping suede onto metal. I kind of want to explore more with that in jewelry. So
I love it. It's such a nice, tight wrap that you were able to achieve. Now, is there any glue underneath that?
No, and it's just tied with a simple knot. So, yeah, it molds and stays really nicely.
And then for the sun catchers, these are actually just using what we refer to as snowflake frames. So these are just wire frames, and we do have, of course, a video on these guys as well. And just, you kind of stack up your beads, and this is a fun activity for, you know, anyone that has extra beads lying around. So if you just want to create just some fun stuff, and it's just simple wire loops at the end, that's all it is. So just nice and fun and crafty. And as we kind of gear up for spring and summer, I'm always looking for new fun ways and just neat ideas for that. So, and one last reminder for our giveaway. Let me just pull that over here one more time. So we are giving away some of that diamond glaze, some patina. We have some glitter here. It's a beautiful color, beautiful gold. And we have a couple of collage sheets for you to kind of explore and have fun with, some bezels, and some chatons for you to use with your crystal sparkle dust and your crystal clay. So this is a $50 value, so we're gonna wrap this up in just a minute, so get your last little comments in. All you have to do is say a quick hi, let us know where you're tuning in from, if you have a question, if there's something fun that you want to see us do. You know, if you guys ever have any questions, not just, you know, in the comments below here, but leave us a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram as well. We're kind of everywhere, so if you have an idea or something that you just really just want to ask about, ask us. We're here to answer your questions.
So here's just a couple more pieces. I didn't want to leave any stone unturned here. I discovered when we were setting the table up this fun piece that's got just beads and rhinestones and charms inside, and it opens with a little notch there and then some magnets that are set to adhere it also, but you don't want to pop that open without being ready to catch all your beads, because I spilled them on the table before you set up. So that was a fun discovery for me. And you could really, you know, change out what's in there for the seasons too.
Yeah.
And then this one over here.
This is just a little box knot, and this is just a fun little keychain, and this is kind of fun to make in school colors. So if you have kids going off to college in the fall, you know, you can just make something kind of fun there.
Is that paracord?
And this, this is paracord. We do have a lot of videos showing you how to use paracord, so it's just a fun thing to really explore. And then just kind of a couple other things that you'll find in our mixed media section on our website is we have some fun little bookmarks and just some fun little findings so you can, you know, if you're an avid reader, add your favorite charms or Swarovski crystals.
Nice gift too.
Yeah, you know, I'm always looking for crafty gifts, and I know my friends always expect them.
Yeah.
And I had a little metal flower here, and that's a little Swarovski pearl in the center, and I just thought it was just a really cute little something blue. Let's say you're getting married or you have some bridesmaids. We have several different colors of that little that little rose. So you can definitely have some fun with some hair adornments as well. So that's just a little sample of some of the stuff that we have on the website there. So we have our winner of our giveaway. So we had a lot of comments, so thank you so much. And like I said, if you guys have more comments, please leave them below. And without further ado, the winner of our giveaway is Veronica Dance.
Nice.
Congratulations, Veronica. All you have to do is send us a private message letting us know where we're gonna send this beautiful gift. So thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I just want to do one last quick little update of my silicone mold. So it's been kind of hanging out with me for the last hour or so. So I have it on my table. Here we are. And as you can see, it's fully cured. And my recommendation is to pour that resin before you pop your bezel out, but I'm gonna go ahead and pop that out and show you how easy it is. There we go. And my silicone mold is ready to go. And I can use this again and again. So I'll probably make something kind of fun with that. So hopefully look on the website and you'll see that
And just
a little
to
bit later.
troubleshoot, the first time you'd done that, it did leak through the bottom of
Oh
the
yeah,
edge, so
I did want to talk about that super briefly. I know we're kind of wrapping up, but I had to do this piece twice because the first time I did it, you can kind of see there, it spilled out because I wasn't careful about making sure that that bezel was in there deep enough. So on my second try here, I sort of squished it up together next to that bezel so that I would make sure that that bezel didn't leak on me, and it didn't, so that's what you'll see in the honey, honey, honey necklace. All right, thank you again so much for joining us. We'll do these every month, so be sure to check back with us then, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.